I have watched Rebels, and I have some thoughts. Alright, let's back up a bit. Recently, I finally, after years of stopping and starting again, finished watching Clone Wars. Not because it's bad, to be clear, I actually quite enjoyed it, but because I do not control the hyperfocus. And then I moved on to Rebels, which I finished in less than 2 weeks. Yes, this was largely because I was made aware that Ahsoka was going to be showing up in The Mandalorian, and that finally gave me the kick I needed to commit. I'm actually a little disappointed I didn't watch both of these earlier, or that last shot in Season 1 of Moff Gideon holding the Darksaber would have hit considerably harder, but what's done is done. This also is not the point of this video. At all. No, I am here to talk about Kanan Jarrus. To the surprise of literally no one, I'm sure. Now, Kanan, for all that I've only known him for 2 weeks at time of writing, holds a special place in my heart. Partially because he's just fucking great, and I love him. I would put that one meme from Brooklyn Nine-Nine in here, but given the givens, I will not. And I love that he and Hera are just, casually a thing in the background for the entire series, right up until the finale, where the writing got weird and, kinda will they, won't they? Which makes no sense given everything we've seen of them. I guess you could argue maybe Kanan sensed Hera was pregnant and was extra stressed by that, given literally everything that's going on around them. Still find it a little hard to believe Hera never told Kanan she loved him, though. It's been 4 years since the start of the series. Their vibe has been team parents in a committed relationship, literally from the jump. They had a whole gag about Kanan being nervous to meet her dad. She called him Love in her literal first appearance on screen.
He has a point, love. We've got 4 TIE fighters closing in.
For God's sake, they had a kid. It's one of the more confusing storytelling and character choices I've ever seen, and honestly, it feels like they did it to try and twist the knife on Kanan's death for the audience, but just ended up tripping over their own feet, and I'm not impressed. It seems to posit the idea that there's something inherently more tragic about losing someone right after you found yourself on the same page, rather than after being in a committed relationship for at least 4 years, which is, quite frankly, just not true. Still not the point of this video, though. The other reason Kanan is so dear to me, beyond being a cool character and a good mentor and I want him to be my dad, he is the only visibly disabled Jedi we've ever seen. Well, I've ever seen. And I've only seen all of the movies, The Clone Wars and Rebels, and The Mandalorian. Haven't read any books or comics except for Darth Maul, Son of Dathomir, and Legends gives me a headache if I think about it for too long. I should also acknowledge that he's the only visibly disabled Jedi we get right up until the very end of The Force Awakens. But even with Luke's skeletal metal hand, Kanan is the only Jedi we've ever seen whose disability is actually taken into account in the writing. No, that one time Anakin got stuck to a magnetized ceiling by his metal hand doesn't count. So, now the only question becomes, how is that disability handled? The short answer would be that it's a mixed bag. I'm not going to sit here and claim Kanan Jarrus is perfect representation, but there are details in his portrayal that could so easily have been just left by the wayside, hand-waved with "he uses the Force," but weren't. So let's get into it, starting with how his eyes look. First thing, let's get the obvious out of the way. It is a goddamn miracle he even has any eyes to speak of, never mind that he's actually alive. He was slashed across the face with a lightsaber. He could very well have just dropped dead right there. What he's left with, however, are these really rather minor-looking burn scars, and the usual pale gray-white visual shorthand for blindness, which is fine in this case, because from what little I was able to find, it is possible for burnt eyes to look not exactly like this, but something close to this. Granted, I couldn't do a lot of research because eye trauma is a big intrusive thought trigger, but I will take it. But while the look of his eyes certainly is something that shouldn't be dismissed as irrelevant, because 9 times out of 10 when there's a blind character who doesn't constantly cover their eyes, this milk-white look is all we get, It's how Kanan acts that I really want to talk about here. How he's animated. Because, at least at first, he does what very few superpowered blind characters ever do. He navigates his surroundings by touch. Sure, yeah, he uses the Force to tell him where he is in relation to others, and he's definitely heavily relying on the Force every time he goes into battle and rides his speeder bike, but he feels behind himself for something to lean against. He runs his fingers over the Sith holocron to find out it's been opened. Ezra takes his hand to return his mask to him. He stumbles a little when he steps down a drop he wasn't expecting. Unfortunately, there are also times the animators seem to forget that they're animating a blind character, like when someone's handing him something and he reaches out to grab it without any prompting from anyone. Though granted, it was Ezra in the case I'm thinking of, so maybe there was some silent training bond communication going on there, if I feel like being generous. Overall, though, while he does use the Force to navigate and guide him in battle, he's one of the better examples I've seen of, well, not exactly a disabled superhero, but close enough. Even the mask, which ordinarily I'd be rolling my eyes at, isn't horrible, because when I first saw it, I was so worried they were going to pull yet another permanently blindfolded blind character shtick, something which is both inaccurate and honestly a tired trope at this point. But no, it turns out Kanan will happily remove his mask in casual settings, or seemingly, don't quote me on this. This was just the read I got from the info we were given in the show itself, when he needs to focus on his connection to the Force. And in Sabine's mural, he's drawn without it. There's also this one moment I feel I need to mention, partially because it'll be relevant later, when he tells Hera he wishes he could see her.
I wish I could see you.
Now, ordinarily, this kind of line would make me roll my eyes so hard they hurt, but in this case, Kanan's still relatively new to this. In the grand scheme of his life, he's only been blind for such a tiny fraction of time. He's still coming to terms with the fact that he'll never see Hera again. In this moment, with this character and his particular set of circumstances, it comes off as much more sweet and heartfelt than if, say, he'd been blind since birth. So I would be fine with this, if not for a certain something I'll be getting into in a hot second. All in all, I have more positive than negative feelings about Kanan in regards to how his disability is portrayed. Which is why it's so heartbreaking that he's dead. Yes, I know they had to get him out of the way for the events of episodes 4 through 6, but they managed to do that fine with Ezra without killing him, and Ahsoka, for that matter. That woman is damn near unkillable, honestly. Like, I realize why this decision was made. Doesn't mean I have to be happy about it. But there is one more thing. One more tiny detail about Kanan's death that I saw it, and I kid you not, I actually yelled, "What?" at my screen. I had to pause the episode to go express my absolute bafflement to a friend before I could continue. See, as Kanan Jarrus is standing there, holding back an explosion with one hand, and sending the love of his life to safety with the other, completely prepared to sacrifice his life, his eyes go from that milky white they've been for all of the past 2 seasons, back to their old teal. In the last few seconds of his life, Kanan regains his sight. And I am so confused and disappointed. Like, yeah, this was shortly after he expressed that wish to see Hera again, but I'm not gonna lie, if you're gonna kill your disabled character anyway, you could at least have the basic decency not to cure them on the way out. Never in my life have I seen a piece of media go, you know what? Actually, the only good ending is a cure and death. That's a new one, and quite frankly, I really do not care for it. I mean, setting aside the pure what the fuck, and I don't think that's how the Force works, of this whole mess, it's just twisting the knife, isn't it? The best ending they could think to give him was not only to die, because they had to get him out of the picture, but also to get his sight back right before he does. He can't just die a disabled hero. We can't be content with that. He has to stop being disabled for just a few brief seconds before his death, then he can die. And the thing is, I know what people will argue in response to this. It's so sweet, though, so heartbreakingly, beautifully tragic. He got to look at Hera one last time, isn't that nice? No, it isn't. Because here's the thing, if they hadn't done this, if Kanan had just died saving Hera, it would have been the same. It would have changed exactly jack and shit. It would still have been heartbreaking, it would still have hurt, it would still have fulfilled the narrative need to not have another Jedi Knight running around the rebellion during the time of Luke Skywalker. It makes no functional difference. I doubt anyone would even have raised the question of if Kanan should have regained his sight in the last 5 seconds of his life, because it comes so out of left field, and we've already been told that Kanan's sight cannot be returned to him. We were told that. Exactly that. It was stated way back in the beginning of Season 3.
Are you saying there's a way to restore my vision?
Your sight cannot be healed.
Nothing would have been lost in cutting this. But in leaving it in, well, then you get people like me. People who were sitting there, already knowing their disabled fave was going to die, but accepting it because A New Hope is quickly approaching, and he needs to be out of the way for that. And then, somehow, they managed to make it worse. Thanks. I hate it. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, consider liking it and maybe subscribing. I will be back here Thursday after next. Bye.